Hi there, my name is Chris Kanavi and I'm going to present my project. I previously have spent the last, 7 years doing environmental lab work and traveling around the country testing and cleaning up pollution in the ground. And one of the things that we used was this geoprobe here, and basically we would drill holes in the ground, sort of like well drillers, to pull out soil sample cores. That's kind of what we use. The soil would come up in these liners. Well, anyway, when we're out in the field, we would be out in the middle of no man's land, and we wouldn't have a library of knowledge with us other than what we've done. And we would need a reference a lot of the time to do calculations. And the whole time, we always kind of joked around about how we wish we had an app that we could use. Pull up a color of soil and determine what kind of pollution is in that soil, or an app that could calculate how much clay we need to backfill holes with. And so that's what my project is. It is an Android app project. So the technologies I used are obviously the Android API itself, and I use the most popular platform that Android app developers use to develop, which is Eclipse. The Android API integrates really well, and I'm pretty sure they have designed it around using Eclipse. A lot of the forum posts and everything you find online gives you a lot of help via Eclipse. For Agile and Scrum, I used Rally. I use this at work. The basic version is a lot simpler than what I use at work, and so I kind of found it hard to get all the information that I'm normally used to inputting into this version of Rally. For one thing, it wouldn't let you, or at least I couldn't find how you record how much time you went over each of the tasks, how much time you spent extra on. Regardless, it's still a great tool. The version control system I used is Mercurial, and I primarily use it through the Tortoise HG workbench. And the online repository I used was Bitbucket. So what I actually got done was a lot of Android API learning. My sprint is broken up into, I have 4 sprints. My first sprint was basically to learn the Android API and get an initial page up and going that the user will come into the app on. This involved designing the layout and implementing the layout. The estimations were in days, but I find that they're not exactly representative of the total time I spent. If a day is a total of 8 hours, then this would be 32 hours I spent minus whatever the velocity is. And so I spent a lot more time than 32 hours working on just learning the Android API. I spent a lot of time thinking about how I was going to design it, how I was going to implement it. And so these things add up to be a lot more than just the total time that should be allotted here. So more or less these are relative to each other. And I wish I use hours at work, and I do a lot better job of keeping track of the hours at work and filling this in. But for this project, it's when I'm the only one using Rally, it's kind of hard to get into the mood of, oh, this is exactly what I did, and my teammates need to know this. Well, because I'm the only person, is really hard to keep up with that. For the UML, I used Modelio, like I previously said, and I started out with the object diagrams. This is just a very quick way I jotted down what the initial few sprints I want to look like. Here the user comes into the home screen and they have all these different buttons that link to all these different things that I plan on doing. Grout calculator, locating wells via GPS, geology, math, and chemistry references. So that's the object diagram, and it really has a lot more to add on to it, and I have tons of ideas to add to this, and I hope to flesh it out eventually more. The class diagram, well, since I'm using the Android API, I didn't feel that I needed to include every single thing about the Android API. You know, the main activity inherits from the support library activity that I have. Let's see, it's called action bar activity, and that itself inherits from, I think, just a regular Android activity. And so, you know, I just needed to get the important information down. I don't need to show everything with UML. And this is where I'm at right now. And in future iterations, actually, it looks like I'm missing a few things I added, but in future iterations, you know, each of these things gets filled out more and more as you go. It's not this as the way it's not used the same as it used to be with the waterfall process, and through each iteration, this is going to flesh out more and more. So let me pull up my Android emulator. I already have it running here. I created a little custom icon, which almost looks like BP, which is kind of ironic. And so here it is. This is basically the layout that I had planned. I have a couple of mock-ups that I drew in Inkscape. Actually, I have one. And so this is kind of what I envisioned: is 6 different buttons, and the words wouldn't be there. They'd just be icons, and you know, you'd have an environmental theme, background of a beautiful environmental area, and icons representing each. Well, as I learned more about Android, this design has changed in my mind more and more. I haven't gotten it down. I have here sort of what it would look like. I would bring all these buttons further down, and you know, you'd click a button and it would pop up a description of what each of those buttons are. So it would be a picture you'd be able to see, and you know, each button will lead to the next screen. So I have the grout calculator set up to go to the grout calculator, and you would have, you know, input here the diameter of the hole, and another text saying how deep is the hole, and another text box saying what size of granular bentonite or whatever you want to use. And then I would have a back-end calculate how many bags of backfill you need to fill that hole according to the legal laws in the area. So this is just one of the few things I actually got implemented, and it's not even fully implemented. The homepage is basically it. I really didn't learn too much through this project, as probably a lot of other students did. I've been using version control systems for years, and I use Agile and Scrum a lot more at work than I do at home. I did come away with more UML knowledge. I found an amazing tool, Modelio, which I plan on using for all of my projects from now on. You know, if I had a chance to redo this, I would probably pick a different project, one that didn't require me learning so much for a single semester class. Overall, though, I really enjoyed the class, and I've had a lot of fun learning these principles and writing this project as much as I have. Thank you.